We can just keep talking about Kristin Weber and just use this.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Reverend and the Reprobate. I'm Lucas Pinkert. I'll be playing the part of the Reverend today. And with me, as always, is my...
decrepit moral code friend, Dan.
That doesn't even make sense.
The Reprobate.
Decrepit moral code?
Yeah.
Welcome to the show, Danley. Welcome to the Reprobate. So Danley's with us.
Nicely
and
done.
Today we are interviewing Kristin Weber, who is a Christian comedian as well as author, famed accordion player. She talks to us a little bit about...
And most importantly, the funniest social media posts in the biz.
That's true. She is a
she cracks
fantastic
me up
follow.
on the reg.
Yeah, a fantastic follow on Facebook. Make sure that you check her out. All the links are in the show notes. We talked to her a little bit about theology, the philosophy of comedy.
Decrepit moral code. Pastor.
Yeah.
That's our bit.
She talks to Danley about how to use words properly to string together a sentence. Decrepit moral code. So we got a lot of interesting things to talk about. She talks about youth ministry and why it's so important that you make sure you get her Chipotle order that's ever changing correct.
Mm-hmm.
Ladies and gentlemen, like, subscribe, ding the little bell to get notifications whenever you're...
And also, leave us a comment.
Yeah.
We like hearing from you.
High five. Here comes Kristin Weber. All right. Hey, welcome to another exciting interview of the Reverend and the Reprobate. Today we have with us a very talented former Texan who is not only a hilarious stand-up comedian, an accomplished accordion player, and I've got some questions about that coming up later on, but also is the author of the new book, Adulting for Jesus. A book about purpose, trusting God, and obviously burritos, specifically Chipotle burritos, but burritos in general. It's the fabulous, the wonderful, the beautiful, the talented Kristin Weber. How are you, ma'am?
I'm doing really well, thanks. How are you guys?
We are doing fantastic.
Do you consider yourself a former Texan, or are you still a Texan living elsewhere?
Yeah, that's a great question.
You know, I don't know if I'm... Do you have to be born in Texas to be a Texan? Because I was...
No, but there's criteria. If you're not born.
I was raised there,
Yes.
and I still kind of have that independent spirit.
Atta girl.
But I am highly allergic to everything that grows in Texas.
Me too.
I think so, all of us are.
Yeah, Texas was never meant to be lived in.
Have
is
you
what
ever
I've
lassoed a
decided.
calf?
No, but I've clapped as someone else did.
All right.
So you've been to a rodeo?
Yeah, in.
Yeah.
In.
That's a good start.
I
So she
cheered.
can always say, this is not my first rodeo. From here on out, she's
would be
always got
my-
that in the bag.
My fourth rodeo.
Well,
I don't think I've actually
quite
been to
an
one.
experienced rodeo wet.
Yeah.
Yes.
All
I don't know.
Right.
That was a bad word that we made up. So I want to start talking about the book, and then we want to get into comedy because we know 2020 has been a crazy year. You guys have had to make a lot of pivots. But I have to say, I first got exposure to the book from the Mike Huckabee show. I saw a clip about it, and Huckabee wanted to know. He's like, how did you come up with that title? That's so cute. And being a millennial, I know exactly how you came up with that title because this is the sort of like crazy vernacular that we've used to describe responsibility and, becoming an adult. I've got to say, though, the book is completely and utterly an unexpected gem. And I mean that in the sense that
You're expecting it to be.
I was what I was expecting, right? And I said that in a certain way to try to get a reaction, but what I was expecting was something that was funny and was something similar to like what Thor Ramsey or like Jeremy Nunez
Mainly
had
funny.
done. Yeah, that it was a comedy book or a book by a comedian that was written in order to be funny about, what it's like to be an adult as a millennial. And certainly there are parts of that, but the book is very theologically rich. It is filled with not just wonderful life anecdotes, but also great advice and ways to view the world and different things based upon the chapters as they're, kind of laid out by the subjects. What led you to write this book, and how did you take that approach, or what made you take that approach? Because I think the book's absolutely fabulous.
Thank you so much. Any more positive things, and I would have had to widen my to accommodate my head. Thank you. That was very kind of you. So I found myself, because as a comedian, prior to 2020, obviously, I was traveling pretty much full time as a comedian. I was on the road. And I found myself having the same conversation over and over with people, especially when I would do church shows. And that conversation generally started with them asking, when did you know comedy was your calling? Which I found interesting because I have never felt like comedy specifically was my calling, or should I say being a stand-up comedian. I always felt like I was more of a writer, and that I still don't know how or why I continue to do stand-up, because I've never craved being in front of people or the affirmation. Well, with stand-up, it's like half and half. It's like total soul degradation or affirmation. It can go either way.
It's laffirmation.
Laffirmation. There we go. Well, it's stand-up when it doesn't go well can be very dignity crushing.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But anyway, I kept having the conversation with people starting with, when did you know this was your calling? Which kind of led to me being like, oh, I don't know that it's my calling, but I am grateful I get to do that. And something about me saying, oh, I don't know that this is like my all fulfilling calling, because I think people assume when you're in front of people and you're doing something like stand up that you must feel constantly fulfilled all the time, because that's what we always look to our work. I think we put a lot of pressure in our day and age on our occupation to really give us our identity and to fulfill us and to establish who we are. So it just brought up these conversations of me saying that, oh, I love it, and I'm so glad I get to do it. I don't know that it's my forever calling, though. And people would be like, oh, wait, really? Because I'm doing this, and I just feel like there's something else out there for me. But that's weirdly encouraging that you're doing it and you love it, but you're not like, oh, this is what I was born to do. And so I just noticed that trend of people looking for anything to give them that fulfillment, that satisfaction, that kind of, we all want to be living in our purpose, I think would be the Christianese way of saying, like, find your destiny would be probably like the mainstream Instagram meme version of that.
Right. Living a purpose-driven life.
Shut up,
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Anytime we can work Rick Warren into a podcast, I think that
it's phenomenal.
It's a win.
We just got 1,000 more views.
Yeah, exactly. So I was just kind of, I don't remember when I think somebody was just like, oh, do you have any other book ideas? Because I had only written a couple things and co-written a couple things for teen girls up to that point. And someone was like, are you gonna ever do anything for adults? Like, because I don't have anything for non-adults at my book table for when I do stand-up shows. And I was like, I should think about that. So I was just thinking about it. And then I was like, there might be something to just my perspective as a comedian who's not all like, I feel like the book of, there's a lot of books out there that are like, just dream hard enough, trust God, live big and live on fire, and you'll reach this. We portray it as you're working to this ultimate point in life. And that's what we're all chasing. I'm like, what is that point? Like, we're all chasing this thing that outside of Christ doesn't exist. And really, in reality, we're not going to even experience that fully until the new heavens and the new earth, because what we really long for is that uninterrupted presence of God. And so that's what we're all chasing, is that C.S. Lewis quote, like, surely if we can't find what we're looking for here, maybe we're made for another world. So it's just kind of my take on that. And I was like, how can I make it funny and accessible? Because I'm a theology nerd. And most theology books I'm not a smart person, which is not it is self-deprecating, but I say that and people are like, oh, yes. I'm like, no, it's totally fine. My brain became funny. We adapted. We're good. Like, it's totally fine. I've adjusted. I'm doing okay. No self-pity necessary. But when I would try to read theology books, I just have a really hard time with all the big words. And it's just, philosophy and theology often to me is taking a simple concept and putting 5-syllable words to it. And so I was like, how can I express what some of these deep concepts or things we would say are deep concepts in a way that people can apply to their lives, understand, and then maybe laugh? Because that's another thing, is I think a lot of philosophy is communicated through comedy, because comedy is just truth stated in a funny, abstract way.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so I kind of worked on, I think the book proposal took me a year, and then the actual writing of the book took me like 3 months.
Wow. You know, that reminds me of that G.K. Chesterton quote that Seth Dillon shared on our show, that comedy slips under the door while seriousness is still banging at it, trying to fiddle with the lock, you know?
He tweeted something this weekend about that too.
Yeah.
He's surprisingly very funny for a CEO.
Well, that's because Kyle's conditioned him to be funny, as we learned.
Yeah.
So I love the theological aspect of the book, and one of the things that I really appreciated. So my wife and I, one of the things we often do is we read books together. So, like, we've just been married for a year, so I do want to talk about being a person in your mid-30s dating as a Christian, because I was there. I was the pastor of the First Baptist Church, and I was single, and so everybody's granddaughter and niece that was away of college, I got to meet at one point or another during my early stages of the church. But we'll get into that later. What I really appreciated as we've gone through it is at the end of each one of the sections, there are questions. So at the end of each chapter, there are questions for you to consider, and then like a little thing if you want to put some extra time into it. And so we've gotten into the habit of, we'll read the book together before we go to bed. We'll ask each other the questions and kind of talk about it. It's brought up some interesting conversation here. And I'm curious, you know, you say in there you've done a lot of middle school ministry. Was that always the intent with the book, was to make it something that could be used in group studies, or that, you know, a couple of people could read the book together and ask each other the questions? Was that always the intent, or was it something that came about after you started writing the book? You were like, you know what, this would also be a great way to use it, or another purpose that this could have?
Yeah, that's a good question. I am a severely introverted person, surprisingly. You wouldn't know it talking to me because I'm outgoing, so that confuses people. And this lady, actually, I had a funny conversation with this lady at a show, and she came up to me, and I had said something about being an introvert on stage, and she was like, oh, you must be super extroverted and love this. And I was like, no, actually I'm an introvert. And I'll never forget her thoughtful reply. She was like, no, you're not. And I was like,
oh wow, really took some time to consider that one, didn't she?
Yeah, not at all. She was like, no. And I was like, okay, well, how many people are in the audience? And she was like, I don't know, like 500 or something. And I was like, well, how many people are on the stage? And she was like, oh, one. Oh, like we're there.
Yeah.
Like, I hate crowds so much. I'm willing to do public speaking to get out of being in them. Yeah. And so
that is some toxic extrovertism.
Yeah,
is what that is.
Response.
Thinking that, you know, this guy is an extrovert. I'm also an introvert.
It's fun.
I believe it. I can tell. Yeah, I can tell that you like people. And as a Christian, I love people. I just don't like them.
Lucas
wants to go where the people are.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. You're totally good. That's
how are my singing
I want
chops?
To stay where the people are. So anyway, it didn't occur to me that people would want to read this book in social settings or like with other people. So initially I didn't have that. I think it was might have been my literary agent who was like, this actually lends itself to some discussion. I know you're kind of writing it as like these almost introspective essays, but I think he was the one that was like, you might be able to add some questions, and then people can use it for book studies, which I don't see myself as a Bible study writer, which to me questions like that always kind of went with Bible studies. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think it worked, and I think that it helps just to kind of digest and process through what was read, to, you know, have some intentional questions to think through.
Yeah, one of the things we've really done as a church is to make a move. Like, we have very specific dedicated Bible study times, but we also have discussions during the week where we do a book study or something like that to discuss sort of, and to put a theological word on it, would be like worldview and philosophy. Right. And so much of that, though, lends itself to being like, what are the practical and pragmatic ways that you can talk about Christ or look at the day-to-day challenges in your life that as you say, that like Jesus tells us that we should raise kids up in the way that they should go, but he doesn't tell us to put them in private schools or public schools or whatever.
Or homeschooled.
Or
which
homeschooled.
I want to talk to
Clearly,
you. I want to talk to
the
you
most
about that.
holy choice.
Yeah. Because we both had some homeschooling experience at different points in our lives as well. So, but the Bible doesn't lend itself specifically to that. So how are we supposed to navigate those things? And like I said, we got into about chapter 3 of this, and my wife was like, "Look, this needs to be a study that we do with either our kids going into college or people that are looking for careers, because you approach things not just from a theological standpoint, but also from a worldview and philosophical standpoint." And I completely appreciate everything that's in the book, as well as the humor, because you do talk about some things that happen in life that are really funny, specifically to now just jump full bore into it, what it's like being a single Christian in your 30s. I think in your stand-up you say you're like 300 in Southern Baptist years or somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Right? So I've certainly felt that. Danley got married really young. You were
I locked it down.
You locked it down.
But before
Right.
before she figured it out.
Yeah. So one
wise.
of the things that I've always felt like was super awkward was the being introduced to everybody. Everybody's got a solution for what it is that you need to do in order to find a man, whether it's a specific app or other pieces of odd advice. What do you think was the weirdest piece of dating advice you've gotten to date as a single lady in your 30s that is a believer?
I'm going to have to go with, it's in the book,
Okay.
and it is part of my stand-up routine, but it remains just the strangest conversation, or one of the strangest conversations I've had. But this lady came up to me after a show, and she was like, "I know you joke about it in your act, but if you want to get married, I know what you've got to do." And I was like, "Okay." She's like, "You need to put a pair of man's pants at the end of your bed, and then you pray to God every night to fill those pants with the perfect man." And then I told her, I was like, "Oh, okay." I was like, "Well, my dad's pretty tall. Maybe I'll just, like, when I'm home next time, I'll just borrow a pair of his." And she goes, "Oh no, that's weird." And so the conversation went on from there. The full conversation is in the book, and I have, I think, a clip of it somewhere in my stand-up videos. But she won. And then, at the end, this isn't in my stand-up, but at the end of it too, she was like, "I put those pants up. And then I joined Christian Mingle and I got my husband."
Oh,
Clearly, it was the
yeah.
pants.
So
that
it was
worked.
definitely the pants.
The pants. Yeah.
Not-
And
Speaking
also
of
the
which-
first and only Christian Mingle dating success story I've ever heard.
Yeah, I haven't got. So did you try the dating apps? Because I've not been public about this. So in my pastoral interview, I was asked point blank. I've been at this church now for almost 8 years. And I'd been serving at the church for 3 whenever they interviewed me to be pastor. And they looked at me and point blank, one of the men that I have known in the church, like grew up in a church that he was at. He goes, "So are you gay? Because we don't know if we." And I was like, "Oh, you know what? No, I'm not." And he goes, "Does that mean that you're not gay, or that you're
You go,
just
"What time is it?"
a non-practicing homosexual?" And it's like, "Oh, great. So we're not convinced about the yes or no thing." But we had, because I didn't talk to them about like the people that I was dating or any of that, but I had been on some dating apps during that time. And one of the things that I found out was, as making the transition from youth pastor into the senior pastor role, was that I had to get rid of all of those because my youth kids were graduating, and that they had expanded their range so much that we were finding each other swiping left or right on things like Tinder or anything like that. So I'm curious.
Did they ever swipe left to you?
I have no idea, because like as
Okay.
soon as I saw them, I was like, no. Like I just deleted after the second student I saw, I had to completely delete the app because I was like, nope, this is not going to happen, because the rumors are going to go from he's gay to no, he's pastor hookups. So I'm gonna stay away from all of that. But have you had have you had any like odd experiences with the dating apps or anything like that happen to you?
I have done online dating. It hasn't gone horribly wrong. It's gone entertainingly wrong.
There
I
you
think
go.
in that, like I've never felt like I've heard some horror stories from girls about getting stalked, or they just end up in really like police need to be involved situations. So to
Yeah.
me, that's like a horror story for online dating. Mine have just been quirky personalities, which from a comedian standpoint, I'm like, let's finish this. Let's get dessert because I'm, job security here.
Exactly.
So I'm trying to think if there's usually what happens when they find out I do comedy is they just end up trying to be funny the whole time, which it's just uncomfortable, I think, for all parties involved. It's hard to get like deep, honest conversation going, I think. So, and then again, being an introvert, small talk is so hard for me. So like going on, like my roommate, total extrovert, she can go on 5 different dates, 5 different guys, 5 days in a row and be totally fine. But for me to do that, I would need like a month alone in a cave because of all the small talk and all the it's so much effort to me. By the way, there's this running joke. The lawn people in our neighborhood decide whenever I'm recording a podcast to like go right outside my house.
Oh,
Can you
nice.
hear them?
No. We
You
can't hear them.
Okay,
No. We
perfect.
can't hear
It's
them
like
over
a
the sound of our own
chainsaw.
breathing. It's weird.
Okay.
Not for
Good.
me.
It's very
Yeah, no,
loud
you're
on
doing
my end.
better. No, we're good.
Yeah. So anyway, so there's that aspect of it. So I'm not doing it anymore. I've decided that if I don't live in a bubble, and I actually, for being an introvert, I get out a lot and I do new things and I meet new people. So I'm like, Lord, I'm not a big like lay out the fleece person, but I'm just like, if I'm going to meet someone, it's going to have to be through everyday life because online dating was painful. And then people, when they know you're online dating, like friends will ask about it. And then they just start to assume that your expectations are really high. They're like, what was wrong with that guy? And you're like, nothing. It's like if you're in a room full of people and like, if you were to put me in a room full of guys and say, okay, find a husband, like you'd have to talk to all of them, to figure out one. So that's kind of what that is. But then people see that. And then, so I've more felt it was just like, people are like, are your standards out of control? Like, why are you so picky? And you're like, you don't understand. We have 0 things in common except for Jesus.
Yeah.
Or we have everything in common but Jesus.
And those are the ones that are harder because you look at it and you're like, you know what? I actually think I might be able to build a relationship with this person. And they're like, oh, Mother Nature. And you're like, oh, Mother something else. This is never going to work.
Yeah, exactly.
So what's the best opening line that's been used on you? Or what tends to be the go-to if somebody's going to try and just make an impact on Kristin Weber? If I'm going to go up and I want to be funny to the comedian, or if I want to...
It sounds like not being funny.
Yeah, it sounds like that might be... Like, if somebody went up to you and was like, hey, Kristin, what's your order at Chipotle? Like, that might be the best opening line. And also, what is it if we're going to have deep conversation? What do you get?
Tack a why on there. Why is that your order? Because I'm like, ooh, deep thinker.
Oh, all right. Yeah,
Like,
there we go.
We've got some motivation and philosophy in there. I do not order at random. My order is predestined in my app, so I just have to tap.
Whoa.
Do you get the same thing every time?
You know what? No, actually, I am unpredictable. I can't be tamed in my Chipotle orders.
Nice.
Yeah, I switch it up. So,
Well,
But always guac.
Is it always guac?
unless I get tacos, no guac with tacos.
Do they do tacos?
They do.
Little
They're
corn,
really.
little-
They're actually pretty good tacos.
Well, we actually have an idea to hopefully, as we've been talking about different traits of men, what traits you're looking for so that we can pray for that man.
Yeah.
So we've got some options. Can you grab them?
Oh, do you? Oh, I am so terrified right now.
Not of men, but
Maybe
just,
don't show them this podcast because
No.
I like literally just rolled out of bed from a nap. Like, there's my unmade bed. So actually,
No.
you should show them this because if they can handle this, then
This
they
is
can
much more
handle
abstract.
Yeah,
There's
we want to know what pair
want me to
of
grab
pants we need to lay at the end of our bed to be praying for to be filled for you. So we've just got a few options.
everything.
Yeah, he's gonna grab
Oh
them.
boy. Okay.
So this is just a standard jean. This is Daniel. You
Okay.
grab that side.
Yeah.
This is a fairly tall man.
Yeah. Are they
But,
faded wash jeans by chance?
They are custom
Custom
waist,
waist loose fit.
Lee premiums.
Okay, so that would
Size
be a
40
man who like cares
size
about details.
Yeah, yeah, for
46.
sure.
He also probably likes to eat at Chipotle,
Yeah, look,
Probably,
grab the other
yes.
side of that.
as I do.
Just a standard amount of
I like to
pockets,
eat
no
too,
no
so-
embroidery.
No embroidery. They look pretty clean, so
Yeah,
he's
they are.
Okay.
keeps himself up
Yeah.
or well kept. Yeah. Okay. You
Okay,
can
well,
put those.
that's
Do-
option
do I
number
get
one.
Yeah,
all my
option number one.
options?
Yeah, we'll
Here's
put
the other
these. Those will
millennial
go in
thing
the
is I
running.
want to. What?
I said those will go in the running. We'll make a pile
Okay.
of in the running pants over here.
We're just gonna make a pile and pray over it.
Yeah.
Whichever one God fills is what we'll do.
The pants are gonna like do a Beauty and the Beast and turn into a human man.
So here's a second pair of pants. These are it's a button fly. So this guy is from the 70s.
I feel like
I
I'd beat that guy up in a street fight.
Probably. And they're tattered jeans, so I think
I'd
these
win.
are the
Tattered
guy that
jeans.
you beat up.
Yeah.
Let's not, because
Okay.
I feel like his ego
not.
might hurt.
I think that's very intuitive. That's a good call. And
here we go. These pants are curated by Jesus. Those are a pair of worship pastor garments. They're
skinny.
those are
the skinny jeans,
for
the
sure.
punchline of my joke.
Yep, they are the 32 waist low rise. So that they don't get in the way of the guitar. So there's no belt rash.
and you have quicker
Ooh.
access to backup picks in your pocket.
in your pockets.
Yeah.
I don't know how. Ooh,
I feel
these
like
are tiny
any guy
pockets.
wearing a low-rise cut might have pride issues.
All right.
Yeah, I'm with you. We're
Back
out.
over into the
no
no.
skinny jeans, at least no
All right.
low rise.
He can't look better in jeans than I do.
This is our final pair of pants.
Let me
And
see.
this is a good set. This
is-
is one of my favorites.
Are they
This is a
overalls?
good.
Please be
This
overalls.
is a good working man's pants.
Yes, those are in the pile.
Okay.
A man of the earth. I will take it.
All right.
Well, there's one more over there.
Oh yeah, hold on. I'll go grab these.
Oh boy.
We were not prepared for this.
Clearly not. You're more
The
prepared.
pants
You
were
have more-
supposed to be here and we forgot.
Oh, that's okay.
Okay,
very
this is
excited.
the last pair.
I'm
'Cause
going with
these
the
are-
overalls.
These are actually preacher pants.
Oh my gosh. Do they have suspenders?
No, but it's fisherman.
Wait, what?
with the full
Oh, yes. See, I like to be outside. I'd go with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So these
Yeah,
are ones
I
you can fish in, and you
go
can
with them.
also be a fisherman of men in and baptize.
Yes.
Yeah, those are my waders that I use when we go fly fishing or when I have to do baptisms. So
So we've got several pants we're gonna be praying for.
yeah.
Perfect.
So,
Yes.
but I feel like that runs the gamut of like good traits that you would want in a man, right? A guy that takes good care of himself, and a guy that works, and then a guy that likes a
Knows how
little
to have fun.
recreation.
And he can feed you fish.
Yeah. So
Exactly.
we'll have some of the ladies from the church sew all of those pants together, and we'll pray that
You
gets
can
filled.
Make them into a quilt for my hope chest.
Okay, so segue.
Okay.
I want to know because I have heard you're a Weird Al fan,
Yes.
and I assume being an accordion player, which is also something else we need to talk about.
Yes.
What is your favorite Weird Al song?
Trapped in the drive-through.
Okay, what's your favorite album?
Polka Party? Isn't that an album, or is that just one of his songs? Running
may
with
be one of
Scissors.
the-
That might be what that's on.
Running with Scissors is my favorite album.
Running with Scissors is a good one.
It's got Albuquerque.
That's a good one. I used to have that completely memorized.
Me too. So that was going to be one of my other questions: is do you know the Weird Al theme song?
I probably would recognize it if I heard it.
You would, I think you would too, because it's an insane
Is
song.
it the this is a story about a guy
Yes.
named Al who lived in a sewer with his hamster pal? Yeah, I know that song.
I was right. I
The
told him, I was like, I bet you she knows
pack
this
up his
song.
belongings and
Had
had
to move to a
yeah.
city in Ohio where he lived in
Where
a
he
tree
lived
and he
in a
worked
tree.
as a nasal
Yes.
just factory. You should listen to it at some
Okay,
point.
well, so
So
if
we're
you
both
know,
Weird Al fans.
Yeah, if you know Weird Al, are you familiar with the Scandinavian folk metal band Corpet Klani, who uses accordion in their heavy metal music?
I can't say that I have been introduced to them.
Well, we'll have to send you
yeah.
some excerpts.
Please do.
Oh, we can't play it right now.
No, we can't, and also we don't have the rights to it.
Yeah.
Because that would be I know darn
You get
Okay, we'll have to
flagged on
send it for you
Spotify.
because it is glorious.
it is. It's really good. We'll email you
I'm
some
excited.
clips.
I like new random weird music.
Yeah.
Oh,
Especially if it
well,
has the
you have
squeeze
come
box.
to the right podcast for that.
Oh,
If you
perfect.
like Scandinavian folk metal and Scottish pirate metal, you have come to the right place.
Are you a philosophy and Scandinavian folk metal fan? Look
Come
no
fill
further
these
than Reverend
pants.
and Reprobate. Yeah.
That's what I was about to say. Do you like fishing also?
Yeah.
All right, so why comedy? I feel like that's you've got a ton of talent. You've got a great voice. You sing in your comedic act. You're obviously a really talented accordion player. Also, you've got a great writing style. Not just comedically, but also with the books and things that you've done. You've had a lot of success as a music teacher and some other things. Why has comedy been the thing that stuck out the most for you and the dream that you've kind of pursued?
I don't know why I'm having a hard time with this question. I think because somebody is like weed whacking right outside my window.
Either that or
Yeah,
they're driving
like,
their Honda
rare,
slowly through the
rare.
parking lot.
And also, I think it's the most visible element of what I do. But I am definitely one of those people that my brain is always going, so I'm always doing a bunch of things. And so like right now I'm actually, like you mentioned being youth pastor, I went on staff in January as a part-time youth leader at a church, and it's going terribly. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I was gonna say
I was
that.
like, yes, let's get to it.
That sounds like a ministry job to
And
me.
my new joke is I never wanted to drink or do drugs till I started working for a church.
I can completely empathize with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've always said that. I was like, that's the joke I can never tell on stage. I can only tell it to other people who work for churches. But so I'm working, and actually, jokes aside, I love working with that age group. And so I'm usually either teaching or doing something with that age group. Writing is usually, that's how I process the world in life. And so I write way more than I even put out there, because for me, it helps my chaotic brain just organize my thoughts and organize what I'm thinking. I'm not super quick on my feet, like I'm not good at improv and that type of stuff. So writing is really my way of, when I'm bombarded with like thoughts and ideas and all of that, is just, organizing it. And then stand up really just started because I wanted to find out if what I was writing was funny. Initially, I wanted to do like sitcom writing or sketch writing. And someone was like, well, if you want to practice writing jokes, you should do stand up and just write, and you just say them in front of people. And then because you're a nobody, you have to do it yourself. Nobody's going to read your jokes. So I would just go up with like note cards and read what I'd written and figure out what worked and figure out what didn't. And then it just was kind of kept going from there. I have no idea why it's still going on.
Well, first off, it's still going on because you're funny. And
Yeah. Thank you.
That's a unique thing. I think there's two groups of people that the world views as patently not funny.
Patton Oswalt.
Yes. No, I think that when, especially from a general market view, that there are two strikes that a lot of people would put, and the first is, and it's unfortunate, the first is that most female comedians people just write off as not funny, and the second is that anybody that has a Christian worldview can't be funny because we can't joke about things. And yet not only do you defy but often excel as being both of those things, and not just with your humor that's self-effacing but also in your observational stuff. I think it's wonderful.
Yeah,
Golly, thanks.
So how I became introduced.
You take compliments as well as we do.
I know, it's that right.
Thanks. You're wrong, but
I'm like, you don't know who I've bombed in front of. I'm not worthy of any compliments.
well, my favorite part of the comedy that you do is the social media posts.
Oh yeah.
Because we're Facebook friends, and there's
okay.
Consistently, I gotta give you kudos. Consistently, we can maybe put some of them up at some point, but hysterical stuff all throughout the week, which is why originally I was like, there's this lady who's just hysterical. We gotta, and then I think I'd seen you on Huckabee. By the way, when you were on Huckabee, I was curious. Does he call you over to sit on the couch like Carson would, or is it just planned that you?
It's planned.
Okay.
So yeah, and I was even supposed to play the accordion and do my parodies, but I guess I didn't think that. I just thought parodies were public domain. So like 5 minutes before going on stage, or however long, might have been like 10, doesn't matter, because they were like, "Oh, you can't do your parodies." And so I had like this 4-minute set. I was like, "Oh no." And I was like, "I don't remember any of my jokes." Because I had been so focused on preparing like this little 4-minute parody set, and then to have that like ripped out from under me, I was like, "But what else do I do?" And so I had to like construct. So I had 4 minutes to do that, and then because I was doing a book promo, 4 minutes, I had 8 minutes total. So 4 minutes stand up, 4 minutes to the couch for.
Yeah. And it was a good set. Also, if you have not seen Kristin's parody of Frozen, Say Amen.
Yeah.
It is one of my favorites. It has usurped
I can relate to it.
what I really loved. My favorite Frozen parody for years was "Will You Help Me Hide a Body" to the tune of "Do You Want to Build a Snowman?" Has been my favorite.
I love that.
We sung it. My brothers and I sung it to Anna and
Oh
Elsa
my
whenever we
gosh.
went to Disney World, and they actually broke character for half a second. And they were like, "That is not.
Perfect.
Oh, that's not how we sing the song." We're like, "Yeah, gotcha." So,
So
but now that has been usurped by Say Amen. And we want to be respectful of your time. We know you got other things you have to do than talk to us knuckleheads. And so at the end of all of our shows, we have a segment called Controlled Rowdiness, where we come up with questions. Just answer the first thing that comes to your mind. We know that you're phenomenal in improv, so this should be a really fun segment for all of
That's
us. So
My palms are sweating.
same.
I'm like, "Oh no, can you hear me? My connection is weakening."
Oh no, the yard people have totally
Hello.
taken over
They're using chainsaws now.
they cut the cables.
Yeah. Oh no,
all right,
a tornado warning.
So the first question is, what is your least favorite place to do comedy, or your least favorite memory of doing comedy? Could be your worst bombing story, or it could just
love
be
a
one
good
of those
bombing story.
One of those places. There used to be a place in Jackson, Mississippi, where we would play as a band. That's how Daly and I know each other, and it was the worst place in the world. And everybody knew of it. The same 10 people were there every night, and it was at the edge of a swamp until it finally burned down, and we all rejoiced. So, is there a place, or is there a story that's like the worst in comedy for you?
Yeah, unfortunately there are several. Top two are one was a bowling alley.
Oh, nice.
They just decided to set up comedy in like the lobby area, and it went about as well as you would expect comedy to go in the lobby of a bowling alley, where there's like skee ball on one side and then like people drinking beer and bowling, like gutter bowling.
If you
Yikes.
timed it right, though, knocking out, whatever was a strike,
Knocking down the
Yeah.
could
pins.
sound like a rim
canned
shot.
laughter.
Like a rim shot. Yeah.
Yeah, if you timed it right, you just waited
exactly.
for it. And punchline,
Boom.
Yeah.
there we go. We're having fun.
All right.
But all you end up doing in that situation is just like commenting on what's going on. You're just like, oh. And he, unexpected, here's a twist. He grabbed the pink ball.
Yeah, hey.
See that one coming.
There he goes. That guy in lane 4 still sucks.
I always use the pink ball.
Get some gutters. Or get some bumpers. There we go.
How is your crush on Robert Downey Jr. going?
Oh, he's totally married, which the only
Yeah.
reason my joke works is because most people don't know that he's married.
Yeah.
So
Okay, so we're looking for a Robert Downey type then, not necessarily.
you know what? I
Don
like
Cheadle?
RBJ.
Yeah. I like
RBG.
wit, which is a problem because guys who have wit generally don't like girls who have wit because they want to be the funniest one in the room. Or so I have been told by my guy comedian friends.
Oh, yeah.
Those guys are dumb.
Yeah.
I think
You know,
maybe like
yeah.
a guy comedian that could be the case, but like both of our wives, maybe that just means that we're not as witty as we think we are, but both of our wives are pretty witty to the point of like near jerks.
Yeah.
But they're
great.
They're funny. No,
It's actually my
they're
13-year
awesome.
anniversary today. So
Yeah.
Hi, honey.
Happy anniversary. No,
Happy anniversary.
I think that's why our wives handle us so well, is that you have to have, I think if you're a secure guy that is quick-witted, that
they're
you-
smart, but we're funnier.
Yeah, but you need to have that balance. Like
Yeah.
that's part of the fun of the relationship.
She's
is the
smart, but I
smart
make her
stuff.
laugh, and she forgives me.
Yeah, look, guys, if you're afraid of a woman with wit, then what you really need to do is take some DHEA and figure out whether or not you
Vitamin
need
D.
some testosterone supplements and figure it out.
Get some up that testo.
Women are funny, and they're
Yeah.
funner when they are.
not
Especially
funny all
when
the
they're playing
time.
board games.
All right, I think we're up for our last question.
Yeah, our final question, because we're going to bring in our producer Colton, whose voice you heard earlier. Now, like I said,
look at his wrist.
These questions are curated for you. So we need to know. I'm going to give Colton my headphones. Can you teach Colton in the last 3 minutes that we've got with you? Can you teach Colton Hot Cross Buns? Mary had a little lamb something on the accordion. Okay, I'm putting the headphones on him and then go.
We appreciate this. He's been trying to learn. He got this at a garage sale.
Oh, you struck gold, my friend. That is an amazing specimen.
Dude, it does look
You're
really
on your
cool.
way to
What does it say?
mediocre things.
It's a coronet. Okay. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know if it was like Fender. That's like, ooh, that's a great.
You're wasting Colton's learning time.
You're right. Learning time. Hot Cross Buns.
So Colton, I need to know. Do you know where middle C is? Are you familiar with music? Okay, so you're on middle C. Okay, so you're gonna put your middle finger that I'm not gonna isolate because it's a Christian podcast or actually, let's do this. Put your thumb on middle C or on a C. There you go. Now put each finger on the next key up. There you go. Okay, so now we're just going to start with the right hand. Do you know the tune of Hot Cross Buns?
No. Hot Cross Buns.
Okay.
Hot Cross
G-A-B, whatever the notes are.
Okay, so you're going to do, and so you have to move your left hand in and out as you do the next instruction.
What
so
about all 1,000 of these buttons?
I'm not sure. I'm not a miracle worker.
Okay.
So,
I'm just trying to figure out what he has to do.
That.
Okay.
I might need some major zoom in capabilities to see where to tell. Usually there's a button with a jewel on it somewhere in the middle or toward the top.
He's got it.
Yeah. Can you play that button and now play a C for me? I can't hear it super well. I think it might be maxing out my sound capabilities. Yeah, I'm still having a hard time hearing it. There we go. Okay, so start on the E. Go E, D, C, E, D, C.
So is that this one?
That's your third finger. Your middle finger. Sorry, I forget that we're not in an actual piano lesson where I've taught you basics. Is that all he had to do?
Hot Cross Buns. Hot Cross Buns.
Hot Cross Buns.
Okay, there we go.
See how they run.
Yeah, that's true. It's like Three Blind Mice. That's all it is. Actually,
job.
that would have been a better way to.
Good job, Colton, but mostly the mastery of Kristin Weber.
Kristin Weber. Thank you so much, Kristin. That was an absolute blast. Thanks for coming on the show. We greatly appreciate it. Quickly tell us about what it is you're doing with the Babylon Bee so that all of our viewers can go and check you out.
Cannot
And then,
wait.
Yeah, and then where else can we find you on social media if you'll tell them that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am tentatively scheduled. No, I'm scheduled unless it gets canceled. In July, I can't remember the date off the top of my head, to co-host one of their weekly updates.
Oh, cool. Yeah, the news update, the podcast.
Yeah, the news update. So that's exciting for me. I'm a huge Babylon Bee fan, so I'm honored to get to do anything with them. So that'll be sometime in July. And then I have, if you like camping, in August, I'm doing a thing called Vacay with the Comics in Indiana. So you can rent a campsite or rent a cabin, and then it's myself and a bunch of other comedians, clean comedians, Christian comedians, and we'll be entertaining you in nature, which itself is a joke.
I was going to say, can we switch that comics on vacay and I just pick where I go?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So social media, I'm probably most active on Facebook. So Kristin Weber Comedy, I think, is my Facebook handle. You can find me on my website, KristinWeberOnline.com.
Yeah, she's hysterical.
KRSTINWEBER.
I get
online.
jujitsu updates and accordion updates and all kinds of stuff.
That's something that we didn't get into.
And homeschooling. There's a lot more.
Yeah, the homeschooling. I want to talk about the jujitsu stuff because you've done your first 2 tournaments. I am getting ready to get my blue belt. So this is.
Wait, you are?
Yeah, so we've got a lot of interesting things we can talk about there. So
I didn't know you did jujitsu.
For
the
next
whole interview
time,
could have changed.
Yeah, for next time with Kristin Weber. Weber. But for now, check out the links in the show notes. Go check out her stuff. Buy the book, Adulting for Jesus. It's absolutely amazing. It's great.
not just for girls.
It's not. It really isn't. It's got a lot of really wonderful practical advice.
There's other books that are for girls. This is not one.
Yeah.
And her like what's the one called? Fix Your Face or whatever. No, that's what my grandma used to yell at me whenever I had.
Girl, wash your face.
Yeah. So
Don't embarrass me.
Yeah, Don't Embarrass Me by my dad. So check out all of her stuff. Kristin, thanks so much for coming on. We greatly appreciate it.
Thank you so much. This was fun. I appreciate it.
Kristin freaking Weber. She's hysterical, dude. She was also. And there's so many things we didn't get into in this interview. Jiu-jitsu. We didn't get to touch about her jiu-jitsu.
There's no way
stuff.
to go deep enough on all of these topics because there's several. I still have more questions about Weird Al and accordion playing and jiu-jitsu.
Right.
Writing. She mentioned that comedy is something that she's kind of in right now, but she's not.
It doesn't feel like her.
More the stand-up portion, but I have much more questions like, well, what do you want to do that we didn't really have time to get into? But do you want to write a sitcom? You know,
she seems to be like she'd be a
working
funny
on something,
right? And she seems like she'd be a funny sketch author or sketch writer. She talks in the book a little bit about how that's what she wanted to do originally. She wanted to write for SNL, but when she went to go do the improv classes so that she could get to the sketch writing classes, that just wasn't her thing. However, I thought she was great off the cuff whenever we were talking to her today. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoy her perspective on dating as a Christian in your mid-30s, having been there and having done it. But it is always weird whenever you have those conversations. I say it's always weird. For me as a married guy, it's weird now on the other side of it to be like, oh, well
let's face it, dating in general is weird.
It's true. It is. And it's rather obnoxious in a lot of ways, but it's an important part of, especially in our culture and in finding a mate, finding your spouse.
Continuing the
dominion over the earth, all of those kind of things. But I really... It's odd for me because I hated so much whenever people gave me dating advice or told me like their stories and stuff, because I'm like, are you doing this because you want me to, like, these are the things that you want me to try? My wife and I met at the gym, and one day she got my attention because in order to keep herself awake, she was doing back handsprings and cartwheels down the little rows whenever she was checking on the equipment. I saw my wife cartwheel and do a back handspring in front of me while I was working out, and I was like, oh, hey, she's really cute. Like, that was
and also,
how...
that's awesome.
Right. But that's not one of the ways God typically uses to get people's attention, right? Like, that's not going to be... that's not the advice that I'm giving to other people. Just keep praying and God's going to send your perfect spouse cartwheeling and backflipping right in front of you one day. Like, that's probably not going to happen. I think we might just have that story.
I was saying, knowing you, that's the way it was going to play out. It was always going to play out that way.
Which is great, but when
God made you, he added 75% Viking. He's like, and also, we've got a good one.
There's 2% attention to detail. That's really how he did it. And the other 23% was just like whatever stuff fit.
Yeah.
So that's not going to be everybody's story. And while I love the way that my wife and I met, I think it's unique. I think it's really funny now telling that story. It's also one of those that if I were in... To swap roles, right? If I was a single guy and somebody was telling me that story, and I'm single in my mid-30s like I was, I would just be like, who cares?
Also, doing cartwheels at a gym as a guy, it's a good way to get your butt.
Probably so. But I really enjoyed talking to her about everything. She's very open about what those challenges are, and what it's been like.
Also, we didn't really get into this, but we're also all from the same place pretty much.
Yeah, we're all from, or at least where we were raised.
It's a very small part of Dallas.
We all were homeschooled for a period of our lives.
Coppell, Louisville, Flower Mound.
And then wherever Kristin is from, an undisclosed location in Texas. Yeah, we're all sort of in that same area, and we might get a chance to interview her in person, which I think would be great.
Yeah.
Maybe do a live stream. Who knows? I think this in particular was probably my biggest takeaway from it. Is that
the pastor's takeaway? Here we go. New segment.
That
brought to you by Nestle Quick. Not
as
really.
As long as it's the strawberry.
Really.
The strawberry Nestle Quick was always my favorite. I really loved the way that her comedy, her theology, and her life are all completely intertwined. Like every bit of that is braided together. That is predicated. Everything that she does is predicated on her relationship with Christ first. That comes across in her comedy. It comes across in her writing. It comes across in the interview that we got to do with her. And I think that that's something that a lot of Christians tend to like pull back from, is that like Nancy Pearcey called it the sacred secular split, right? That like we have all the things that we do at church, and then outside of church we have all of the other things that we do, and we try to keep those things separate. And she really does, and it weaves into every part of her life. And in the book in particular, the questions at the end of each chapter really cause a lot of reflection. And I know that I said it in the interview several times, like this is one of the best pieces of literature, period, Christian literature or otherwise, but one of the best pieces of literature, period, for people who are in your late teens to mid 30s, on just, here's the stuff that you're going to face. These are the challenges that you've been saddled with, better or worse, and you can either choose to rise to the occasion, and if you don't, here's some of the pitfalls that all of us have fallen into and a way to deal with some of them, and then let's go on to the next thing. It's not a self-help book, but there's so many things in it that I would put sort of in that category of sorting yourself out, to borrow a term from Wayne. Just sort yourself out.
Also, if you are looking for a Christian, funny, intelligent, thoughtful author from Texas who moved to California to Atlanta, we have some pants for you to try on.
Yeah, and
you have to fit into a couple of them because she approved a couple, and that's going to be up to you.
It's going to be a layered suit. Like the tearaway pants that the basketball players wear. They're just poof, and then there's shorts. That's what it's going to be like. Well, hey, thanks very much, Kristin Weber, for coming on the show today. It was an absolute blast having you on. Make sure that you check out her book, Adulting for Jesus, a book about finding. There you go.
Trusting God and obviously burritos.
So check it out. Make sure that you follow her on social media, especially on Facebook, Kristin Weber Comedy. All the links to everything she's got going on are in the show notes. Check out her episode with the Babylon Bee coming up in July. And for all of you reverends and reprobates out there, thanks for watching. We'll see y'all next week.
Later.